Welcome to our latest series on sustainability in the construction and quarrying industries, where we put the questions to leaders from Cummins, Volvo construction equipment, and Topcon positioning systems. Here we asked, do you need to be sustainable to win that next contract? Is sustainability already a standard requirement in the bidding process, or do you believe there is still room for improvement? Is there a difference between large and small contracts? Does the industry need to further integrate sustainability into its practices, both now and in the future? What role and scope is there for further legislation in this area?
The disclaimer from me would be we're usually a step removed, right, from the bidding process. So we deal largely with OEMs and in some cases large end fleets. I would encourage, obviously, end users to verbalize those requirements back through their dealers, back through their OE channels, so that they're more visible to folks like ourselves. I can say that it comes up more in OE conversations, probably than it has in the past. So I know there are some signals there. Hard to say if it's a standard or not. It feels very much pocketed still. And when you're in isolated pockets, I come back again to that scale comment from the previous question. You know, it's really hard to profitably navigate isolated pockets of bid requirements, depending on what they are, right? Again, if there's something that drives for a readily available technology that can be put into the market now, fantastic, we should do that. If it's something that tries to drive a technology into the mainstream ahead of when the TCO parity is there, right? Without incentives, those tend to not make a lot of near-term sense, for folks right now.
Pontus, what are your thoughts?
I mean, Jeremy's points are correct, but also to fill in for us, I mean, we see it's not standard yet in the bids and so on, but what we see becoming more and more common is that you must declare the CO2, and you must the end-to-end CO2 values, how the contractor will perform his project, etc. So can he, and also having the lowest CO2 is one of the bid parameters that the project requester look at and so on. So it's coming more and more for sure. Yes. But we see it's becoming more and more common from the governments, etc. So that's the first step we see, and we also see in cities that now they are starting to talk about this project must be done emission free and so on, and CO2 neutral, that type of thing. So it's coming. It's not standard yet, but it's coming more and more. Yes.
Why do you think it's not standard yet, Michael, across the board? Do you think it's to do with the sizes of companies? What do you think the reasons are?
I think a lot of it is, first and foremost, kind of public perception. We certainly see that perception varies around the world. In Northern Europe, people are very attuned and much more sensitive to this. In other places where they're more driven by economics before the environment or the people, it's around the productivity. I would say you're exactly right in the fact that increasingly understanding scope 1 and scope 2 emissions from vehicles is becoming important. Probably when I begin to think of adoption of some of these things, one of the ones that I think of pretty obviously is road smoothness. In the United States, there are, in round numbers, there are 50 states. Approximately 24 of those have elements of a smoothness standard. So you've got about half adoption. It's been proven a number of times that a smooth, accurately paved road takes less material to construct it. And when it's accurately compacted, that smoothness results in lower fuel consumption from all of the cars that travel on it. And they also have less car repair because the cars traveling on it have fewer bumps and have less damage to themselves, as well as that road top will wear more evenly, and then when it needs to be replaced, you can do that more efficiently. So road smoothness is a great example, in my opinion, of a standard that is becoming adopted, but is still not yet widely adopted. And change is always difficult for everybody, but everybody loves progress. And the difference is what's the purpose. And so as more people have an idea of the purpose behind the change, they begin to expand the standard and adopt that changing standard.
Yeah, Jeremy, adopting those standards, more legislation to standardize it? What role and scope is there for further legislation in this area?
Good question. So again, legislation from our perspective tends to be more emissions output driven. When you don't have something that is nationally legislated, as an example, right? Even a one country solution or a one state solution tends to drive disruption in the force a little bit, right? Being able to design for that. So we need standards that are more widespread. We need standards that are, I'm going to say, emissions target driven, not necessarily technology mandating proposals, right? So put the benchmark out for the industry, let all the smart engineers in the industry figure out what's the optimal solution, right, that balances that CapEx, OpEx, operational integration. To me, that's kind of the way we need to approach it.
Pontus.
If it's legislation or not, I think it's more to get the eyes open and drive it from government and also the bigger building companies, whatever, to have the CO2 as one parameter and or any type of emission, that to drive the importance of it and sort of starting to highlight it. As I said, as Jeremy pointed out, the legislation, it will always be there, but it will always be different, from country to country and region to region and so on. So
that's a problem, though, isn't it?
Yeah, or opportunity. That's
you can use both, but it is a challenge.
Right.
With legislation, you also see changes happen, and also getting the rise of maybe the future technology that is a must in one country tells that, the TCO is lower in that country versus the country that is still running on old technology. So in the end, I think legislation, of course, helps you, but it's hard to implement everything in all places at once. So it's
challenging, Michael, isn't it?
It is, and so that's when I look at these kind of things, and I live in California, which certainly has been leading a number of different aspects of regulation. I'm a big believer in incentives-based adoption, when we can show elements of the benefits, whether those are benefits economically to people or to the environment, and then being able to assign value to those benefits so that then we can create incentives for driving that adoption. And so I'm a glass half full guy. And so I think through from the idea of do we have the incentives out there to get our intended behaviors? And so that's really the way I look at it.